So we'll walk through Hebrews. And I was looking at this week, and as we talked about the supremacy of God last week, when we go about our daily walks and when we do the things to help others and the things that we just do every day, me and Kimberly went and talked to, I call him my uncle, but he's my cousin, Thursday, and he's at a Steel Creek Church in Charlotte, and we were just coming to talk to him to see what did him and his wife do, and when they started their church and what their roles were, and I'm new at this too, so I don't know a lot of what we're supposed to do except Kimberly sit there and look pretty and me stand up here and talk a little bit. So we went and talked to him, and I asked him, his church when he got there was, I think he started preaching at 21, never went to seminary. His church, I think he said had 15. So I said, what did you do And he said, I helped others. That's what Jesus would have done. He would have helped others. And as I looked, just this week as I was riding around, there's homeless people everywhere. We didn't see that in the country where I was living, but every corner you turn here, it seems like there's someone with a sign or someone sitting in a wheelchair needing something, and it breaks my heart because I hate to see. That's the cutest little boy. He waved at me when he come in, so I tried to get him to wave at me again. So you see everybody that needs help, and I look at myself and I say, well, what would Jesus do? Would he keep driving, or would he stop and help them? And so as we go about this week, I just want us to think that when we approach a situation, or we see someone that needs help, or we see something that can help others, that we don't do what a lot of us do sometimes, and I'm guilty as well, is, well, if I help this person, what is he going to do with what I help him with? Is he going to take it and go buy alcohol, or is he going to do this and that? And that's not for me to question and to decide. It's for me to hand out and to help and to be able to tell them just a little bit about Jesus as we meet them. So look into that this week as you just go about and see all the help that we can provide and the help that people need. And, you know, I may have said before, but we're all one situation or one decision away from being in that same boat, and we could need help at that time. So in Hebrews chapter 1, verse 6, it says, and again, when he brings the firstborn into the world, he says, let all God's angels worship him. Now we know that God was not the firstborn child on earth. We know that Adam was the first human being placed on earth. But if you think what this title that's given to Jesus as the firstborn, what does that really mean? And how important it is in so many societies that what the firstborn means for a son or for a child, and what kind of things come with them with being the firstborn. As my firstborn is sitting here, what do her sisters do to her? They look up to her. They all want to be like her. They'll tell you they don't. They fight like cats and dogs, but that's a way to show, hey, I really want to be like you. It's an importance for the firstborn to set the right examples for others to follow. Because I'm sure some of you have brothers and sisters, and as the older ones would get to do the cooler things, you tried to do exactly what they did, and then what usually happened? They got mad at you, or they told your mom and daddy, or you got in trouble for doing it. But there's great responsibility put on the firstborn child. It's their responsibility to lead their siblings when their parents are not there. When we would go out or go do something, we would leave our firstborn in charge. And we would tell her, you ain't their mama and daddy, but here's what we need you to do while we're gone. And you think how important it is that God calls Jesus the firstborn into the world. He is the example that we're supposed to follow And everything that he does, if we do the exact same way as him, everything will be okay. Like we talked about earlier, Jesus had a very short time in ministry. He had about 3 years. But in those 3 years, all the times you look at things to emulate as Jesus did, what did you see him doing so many times? He healed. He helped people. He let others know that no matter where you came from, that you're still just as rightfully to have a place in heaven as the rich people are. He took everybody and he went and sat with the sinners. He went and sat with the woman at the well. He went and sat with people that everybody else shunned in the world. And many times that spoke to me this week, because many times the homeless are who we shun today. They're dirty. A lot of times they don't smell good. You always think, what are they going to do with this and that? But that's not our place to ask. Jesus would have walked down and he would have helped them. He would have known their need and he would have met their need. It'd be no different as we've seen what if a homeless person walked into church? He stunk. His clothes was dirty. Would we tell him to leave? Would we tell him to go take a shower and change your clothes before you came back? We wouldn't do that. Because that's not what God had instructed us to do, and that's not what Jesus did. He went out and met the needs of the people he came in contact with. And it's in verse 7, it says of the angels, he says, he makes his angels wind and his ministers a flame of fire. So I was looking at this, and anytime I think of fire or anything light, I always first think of Jesus. There's no darkness in light, and there can be no light in darkness. But what I found interesting in this verse, if his ministers was a flame of fire, what does wind do to fire? Makes it spread. And especially if things are close together, if the wind's blowing the right way, everything catches fire in that direction. There's been many stories of whole cities burning down, and because the buildings were close together and the fire started and the wind took and burned the buildings. But if he makes his ministers a flame of fire and the angels are the winds, that's something that Jesus is telling us to do here in Hebrews. It's what the Bible is telling us to do. It's telling us to spread out, to take and spread like wildfire. The world needs it now. This town needs it. The county needs it. It seems like every day now you look at something and somebody's getting shot. Something bad's happened. And we had the young man that shot the people this week because a basketball rolled in his yard. You never know. You never know when your time is or what you might do to upset someone. And then something like this happens. So God is telling us to spread his flame, spread the flame, and let the wind blow it to all ends of the earth. I had went and done some work, maybe Wednesday, Tuesday. A lady asked me to come mow a yard for her, so she told me where it was at in Charlotte. I said, well, is the neighborhood safe? I knew it was near the plaza, but I didn't know if it was a safe neighborhood or not. So I pull up, and where was it at? It was right beside Hidden Valley, probably the worst neighborhood in Charlotte. And I said, oh, my goodness. So I was about scared to mow the grass. I mowed it fast, weeded it fast, and got back in the truck. But should that have stopped me if someone needed help in that neighborhood? Does it stop me to stop and help that person? It should not. That might be the best that they can do. Also, does that mean we don't witness and we don't spread the flame and we don't tell people about Jesus only in the good neighborhoods? It doesn't mean that. It means we go there also because they're also in need of the word. In verse 8 it says, but of the Son he says, your throne, O God, is forever and ever. The scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. The scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. And we know the scepter is like the wand that you hold with the little ball on top. And it's an example of power and royalty so many times. And we know uprightness means that you're stand firm in what you believe. You're always standing straight up, and when somebody looks at you, they don't have to guess what you're going to do, how you're going to react to this situation, what you believe in this situation. Because you're standing there, you're standing upright, and you're standing firm in what you believe. And that's something that we as Christians have to do. We have to stand upright in what we believe. We can't falter, we can't bend. We can't sit down when the times get tough. We have to be standing upright. And there's going to be uncomfortable times. There's going to be times that you're faced with things that will be very difficult for you to say no to. And I have a very good friend, one of my best friends, and I've told Kimberly this story, but he had asked me, will you baptize my grandson? And I said, well, is he saved? And he said, no, but I want him baptized. And I said, I can't do that. A very, very close friend of mine, and it was hard for me to say no. But I said, listen, this being baptized doesn't do anything. It's what you've done prior to that baptism. This is an outward showing of what happened on the inside. I said, but I can't do that. It's not right. You give somebody a false hope of security and tell them, hey, you've been baptized, now you're good, you're going to heaven. And we all know that's not the truth. So there's going to be times, and this was a hard time because we care for this person and we love this person, but we have to tell them no when the things aren't upright or righteous. And it's much easier to tell someone you don't know, you don't care about no, than it is to tell your family or your friends or your loved ones. That's when it's become difficult to tell someone no, is when things like that come up. But we must stand firm and we must stand upright. And in verse 9 it says, you have loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Therefore God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness beyond your companions. So we know that the Bible tells us here that Jesus has loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Should we not follow the same example? Should we not follow in the same footsteps and not enjoy the wickedness? But we all know wickedness will be fun for a season. There's a reason why people fall off the bandwagon or they go the wrong way, because wickedness will bring you joy, but for a short period of time. And when you fall strong and you fall hard, and then you find yourself at rock bottom, and you say to yourself, only if I would have stayed away from that wickedness and I would have walked the righteous path. But guess what? When you get back on that righteous path, guess who's going to attack you more? Satan. When he sees you doing wonderful things, when he sees you doing things for the Lord, Satan's going to come at you. He's going to come at you hard. He's going to put the things in front of you that he knows is going to trip you up. But if we constantly keep wickedness at arm's length, and we keep it away, that we know the path of righteousness is very small, but the road of wickedness is very wide. And there's a reason for that, because it's easy, and there's going to be a lot of people walking down this road, but to stay on the path of righteousness is a very hard thing to do. And it takes so many different things. It takes a constant, I'm a big fan of a constant time of prayer, especially when I get on an airplane. I pray all the time. I don't stop till it lands again. But it's not something that we have to stop and do. You can talk to Jesus all day back and forth. And you don't do it, just don't answer yourself when you talk to Jesus, because then somebody's going to call the crazy police on you and they're going to take you to jail. But talk to Jesus all the time. But as much as you talk to him, you have to wait to see what he responds back with. Because if you're always talking and talking and talking and you're never listening, what good are you doing? You're just upsetting people. So it says in verse 10, and you, Lord, laid the foundation of the earth in the beginning, and the heavens are work of your hands. So God knows what is going to happen to each and every one of us. He knows that our life is predetermined. He knows you're going to make these decisions. These things are going to happen to you. And how hard do you think it is for Jesus to know that such and such is never going to accept him? But he constantly puts himself out there. He's not pulling back from that person. He's not telling that person to, no, I'm giving up on you. You know, the Lord never gives up on you. We give up on him many, many, many times, but he never gives up on us. And it says in verse 11, they will perish, but you will remain. They will all wear out like a garment. And he's talking about here that what he made, the heavens that he made and the earth that he made. And it tells us in Peter that he's going to destroy those again. He made them with his own hands, but those will be destroyed. It says it in 2 Peter. But what's the main point there for us to see in verse 11 and 12 is that Jesus is still going to be here. The heaven and the earth may be destroyed, but Jesus will still be here, and he'll be here forever and ever and ever. That's the uprightness and the steadfastness that we need to look at too and listen when we make the decisions that we make on a daily basis. And in verse 13, it says, "And to which of the angels has ever said, sit at my right hand until I make enemies a footstool for your feet?" And in verse 14, it says, "Are they not all ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation?" So are we not sent out to people to spread the word? That's our number one thing that God tells us is to go out and to make disciples. He doesn't tell us to sit still and be still. He tells us to go. But what God is not asking of us, of his disciples, he said, give up everything. Drop what you're doing right now and come follow me. Don't go tell your mom, your dad, your brothers. Don't do this and that, but stop right where you are. Drop everything you got and come follow me. How difficult would that be if God told you to say, stop. Don't let everything you had in the past go. Don't worry about a house. Don't worry about an income. Don't worry about a vehicle. Just follow me and things will be all right. It'll be difficult for us to do that, but do we love Jesus enough, and are we willing to follow him enough to say, God, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. If you tell me to go here or there, I'm going to go. I'm going to take this step of faith under your direction and just say, hey, that's what I'm going to do. So as we close this out before we go into our meeting, James is going to come up and play 2 verses of Out of My Bondage, Sorrow and Night. But think as we've talked about this today and how he's told us to, he said his angels are like wind and his ministers a flame of fire. He's telling us what to do. He's telling us to go out and spread the word. He's telling us to stand upright and to love righteousness but hate wickedness. We are to be something for people that are not saved to look at and say, there's something different about these people. There's something different about Christians, and I'm not really sure what it is, but I want to know and I want to be like it. And then as they come and that gives us the opportunity to talk to them and to witness to them, we need to make sure and know that this person is going to be watching you. Whenever you think they're not there, they're going to be there looking at you and watching you. And it's what that we need to stand upright and to stand firm and know that whatever happens on this earth, the Lord is still going to be here, and he's going to be here forever and ever. So if you need to come down and kneel at the altar, or if you need to come sit down, please do that. I'll be down front. And then after the invitation, if you would like to leave, you can, and then we'll go into our meeting at this time.